Anything new in the world that you want to discuss?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of animal stuff going on, right?
Again, smuggling of animals, and I notice in the news every time you turn around, there's more and more people getting caught at the borders, that type thing. So that's huge right now. It's been very rampant. So that's a huge newsworthy thing, because it's almost every day that you're seeing it now. So a lot of
Why do you think that's picking up so much?
well, Trump's trying to close in on the border. So,
Okay, yeah.
and as the closing of the border takes control, then, there's more stopping. We don't have open borders. So we're going to find more and more people being caught for different things that, the drugs and like I said, the animal smuggling and that type stuff. So let's hope that the animal industry and private ownership can take responsibility and can work together to formulate plans on how to protect their animals. Well, there was, a story that went around about a private owner that had an owl monkey that got out at uh, Starbucks, and it happens to be a friend of mine.
Oh.
Yeah, it's her owl monkey. She's actually been to the facility, and she's this amazing mutt mom, and you
Mhm.
know, she's always
Oh.
yeah, she's always a responsible person. She really is.
Mhm.
And I want to stress that, but she got her feelings hurt because some of the news people picked it up and um they were calling her ignorant and a bunch of stuff, which was out of line as far as I'm concerned. Um so she I wanted to bring that point to light because just because an incident happens and it can happen so quickly doesn't mean that she wasn't being responsible or doesn't mean that she would never want anything to happen to her kid. So
Mhm.
it was just a brief a moment that happened because he had been into that drive through several times and they would give him one of them pup cups, which is like a little whipped
Mhm.
cream, and he was going for his whipped cream, and then the lady got startled and then they tried to swat him off there. So then stuff got real. So it's sad. We need to educate people, first of all, how to handle things like that, but secondly is we've just got to reiterate especially because of private ownership being so scrutinized. We need to really encourage people to don't have them out and don't show them. And it's sad because there's so many people interested in monkeys, and that's not why people should have monkeys anyways. It shouldn't even, that shouldn't even enter in as a factor in owning a monkey just because you want to show your monkey off. But
Yeah.
the little people, the little monkeys are more easy. They always snap their belly band and their lead to their clothes because they're not huge monkeys. They're not going to pull on you, that type thing. And they'll sit up in their hair and on their shoulders, and that's kind of a way that they usually, a lot of them, walk around. Um, and it normally wouldn't be a big deal, but obviously it was that time. And like she said, it's
Yeah.
happened time and time again, and there's never been an incident. But like I told her, we had this discussion that it can happen, and it's just a one time thing that can, devastate not only your world, because they could euthanize your monkey for rabies, but secondly is it just puts another mark on private ownership. So at this point,
Yeah.
we just need to really educate to keep them at home or
Yeah.
definitely secured in a lock cage. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I would be concerned. It says that it bit her arm and ear. I would be
yeah.
concerned what the government is going to do with the monkey now.
They quarantined it and it got off quarantine and then got its
Okay.
rabies vaccination and that type of stuff. So I'm hoping that she does still yet have to go to court for a fine that she got, two fines. So I'm hoping that that's the end of that. But again, it made national news, which is not something we need to have right now, especially because after the
Mhm.
the Primate Safety Act just barely got done from being, knocked down. So we just don't need any more publicity, that type thing. So,
Yeah, and we know how people are. They get a few facts or something that they hear and then they just run with it and make up, their own stories in their head. But so you don't believe, and I can see if I had a monkey like with my dog, putting it in the car and going out with it.
yeah,
So it seems totally reasonable, but you believe that people should not be taking their primates like that?
we can't. We can't anymore. We all did. And that's what I told her. Everybody's guilty of making a mistake, of doing stuff back in the day, especially when you became a first monk mom. And especially back when it was acceptable because people were not sue happy and people were not after the exotic industry, that type thing.
Mhm.
We all took our monkeys out. No, I don't know of any one person that didn't, but nowadays you just can't. You just can't. I wouldn't even probably venture out to a monkey function, even though I used to go to those all the time. Yeah, no, that whole world is just really messed up right now. Yeah,
Yeah, I can imagine so, especially with everything coming out. What
wow.
do you think are like so if someone is a primate owner, what do you think are like the top like three things you have to know, like you have to
Well,
follow?
yeah, basically, always keep your primate safe. Safe.
Hmm.
There's so many states that are banned, so you have to know which regulations, what you need to go into each state. You have to have a health certificate to travel and it has to be within 30 days, the health certificate. So you just have to know your legislation and that changes day to day. And just
Hmm.
because a state is state friendly doesn't mean that each county or each even city is friendly. So it's a lot of work to research.
Yeah.
It's just easier. Just keep them home.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
It is. Anymore, it's just easier to keep them home. I don't even take my little babies that, is not moving, that's just on a bottle. I don't even take them out hardly ever. But you know what? I've had them for so many years because everybody's like, well, you need to show them on TikTok more. You need to. And I'm just like, yeah, yeah. But it's because they're a part of my life every single solitary day. I don't get them to like,
Yeah.
oh, look at me. Woe is me. I've got exotics. I'm not saying we didn't go through that phase. I think everybody does. But I've been way past that phase a long time ago. To me, knowledge is the power.
So,
So, but there's, all that. They did find those final monkeys that had escaped the
mhm.
43 out of that South Carolina facility. They did finally get them all rounded up. So there is no more loose monkeys, guys. So those streets are safe again.
Yay. Well, what happens to the monkeys though? They just go
Well,
back in the lab?
I'm sure they will. And I understood that was basically a breeding lab for labs. It wasn't really a research lab that actually did experiments. That's why they self assured everybody that those monkeys were clean. Now, how much do
So
they
they
check?
breed monkeys that other labs use and test on?
Uh huh.
Well, we need to eradicate that one though, so they
There's
don't
a,
have
I know there's
to
a few.
fly.
There was one here at the lake actually that did it for years, and I'm pretty sure that they're still here, but they just stay really, really low. But they do breed for labs. Yep.
To me, just being an outsider of the monkey world for the most part, I would feel that these are the places the government and PETA and the USDA should be focusing on getting rid of. I feel like the labs should be the top priority
I agree.
because we know 100% that those animals are not being treated like, well, they're not being treated like pets or wild animals, either one. And
No,
so, why use all the resources to go after someone who's actually taking care of their primates in a loving, way? I don't know. It just
it's
doesn't make sense.
it doesn't. But as time goes by and I get older, I mean, I see where some people just don't need to own primates too. So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't always have the answer for everything, but I do know that it's a big challenge right now for us in the animal industry, period. And we need to do what's right by these animals, and we need to keep them out of social media as much as possible, and that
Yeah.
includes docu-series. So, I'm not saying I haven't screwed up unintentionally, of course, but it is
Mhm.
what it is, because as everybody knows, that I truly would never have consented to that docu-series. But it happened, and we just need to learn from my stupidity. Never trust those folks, and just know that they're not looking out for your best interest. And just uh, stay out of it if you can.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting animals solely for social media or to show them off, that's not a reason to get them. Obviously, like it's icky. It like falls in line with all the moms that like
Dance
use their
moms and that, yes,
children.
pageant moms,
Yes,
and yes,
for social media content and everything, and like those they can't agree to that. Like it's not good for them. Like just spend time with them.
I know. Well, and then keep replacing them as they get older because they can't
Yeah.
handle them, and they just give them away. I think responsible private ownership and people that really want to own them for them is great. But it's just gotten, because of social media and stuff, it's gotten way out of control. um I hope for a while we can have a little bit of a break so that we can do some things that needs to be done and go on. But nope, I have nothing to feed except just the stuff that I feed daily. But that's just cutting up fruit and veggies and that type stuff, and feed monkey chow. So I'm kind of weird without a bottle.
Oh yeah, so you don't have Bo or anything?
Mm-mm.
Oh wow. Wow, you have a lot of I bet you feel like
Even
what
that
do I
little
do
baby
with all this?
spider baby got to go to its new home, which was really sad for me, because
Mhm.
that mama had it was her last baby, and that was the only viable baby she ever had. And I elected to have her fixed because she just don't deserve to have to go through that. But nonetheless, it was heart-wrenching. And I'm a capuchin mom. That's if I had to have a monkey, I'd want a capuchin. So I was like, you know what, that there's only certain ones that own you, and you just are a service to the others to foster and that type thing. And there is, you just have to know you can't take everything. So I was like, okay, he's doing amazing.
Oh, that's sweet, but also really hard. Like
Yep,
I can
it
see how that would
was.
be
It
hard.
was hard because I was like, at first I was like, I'm not gonna, and I'm like, Tanya, do you hear how you sound? So, I have to put my own self in check, folks. To be honest with you, because I definitely could see myself wanting to hoard animals, because I'm like, well, no, I'm not the only one that
Yeah.
can take care of them and that won't do a mighty fine job. And
Mhm.
on top of that, I can't do a lot of fostering if I have a bunch of my own that I have to take care of. So I have to know when to say when, and know where my heart should lie. And there's a lot of animals that need help, and we need to help them. So
That's true. I also struggle with that, like wanting to take in every animal and having to be like, no, the ones I have need my attention. Like I can't, but yeah, it's true. A lot of animals do need help temporarily,
yep.
and that's a great thing that you give to them.
Well, we've got to, no choice. But anyways, so other than that, everything else okay. I showed you that little podcast I've been doing with that guy.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the name of it is. I showed it to you, but he's a really nice guy. But I was on there as a guest, and then periodically they film, and or not film, but they record, and they want just an animal person to come on. So I've been coming on for them and just doing a little not even 5 minutes, just to say hey, and that type thing. And anyway, so he got a website now, and it's kind of cool to be like their guest speaker per se,
Yeah.
randomly. So that's kind of
The
been cool.
animal expert.
Yeah, and
Animals
I
for
don't ever
China.
think anybody is an expert. I don't care if you're Jane Goodall. I think we
Mhm.
learn every day from animals, but and every animal's not the same, and even every species, every animal in that species is not the same because you definitely they have personalities, and that has
Mhm.
somewhat of a factor in how they behave. So, but anyways, I look forward to doing stuff like that, and I'm kind of excited, but I've really withdrawn because of all the stuff going on with the litigation and the judge being like she is and that type thing. And I haven't even done TikToks and that type stuff. And I'm really sad about that.
I
Um,
was gonna ask about that because I noticed like you just I mean, I understand, obviously.
well, I'm just beat up, you know.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like that there's days that I feel like well like yesterday I was eating at Applebee's and the waitress says I'm gonna this may say sound strange and I may that you may think I'm strange but are you Tanya from Jim Crazy? And I said yeah actually I am and she's like I thought so but anyway so very nice young waitress Applebee's but it was just really sad because you know I'm sometimes I'm just like I feel like if you do go out there and do say something, you're being crucified. And then, you know, everybody's taking every one of the words and twisting them and using them. And I sometimes
Mhm.
I'm tired of that. And I don't
That's
know.
hard, yeah.
I don't even know where I'm at today. And I want to see a reality show. I do. I want to see one so bad. You know, it's just weird. It just, I don't know why it's not happening because I was laying there. I was sick and I was laying there and it was like 8 o'clock at night. And I was like, I'm going to DoorDash Taco Bell. And my husband's like, you are so weird with that DoorDash. Because he doesn't get DoorDash, but I'm like, I am going to DoorDash Taco Bell. And anyways, and just some of the stuff that I say, and I'm not being funny, but it just comes off funny because of my dry sense of humor, I guess. So, I mean, like the film crew used to tell me that all the time. Do you know how funny
No,
you are?
yeah. You're such a character, like, I love just hanging out with you.
I know that's what everybody says, and I'm like, really? Because I just don't see myself like that. And so then, but then I seen myself that night, and I was like, if only they could have filmed me laying there, like you know, I'm sick, and I mean sick, and I'm just like, okay, but then I'm like wanting Taco Bell through DoorDash, you know, and just silly things like that. I'm like, if people could only see that side and see all the fun stuff with the animals and that type stuff on a day-to-day basis, not just film stuff, not hype stuff, not because
Yeah.
I don't like the fake stuff, you know. You know, and everybody's like, well, like I went and got lashes done yesterday, and if they could have went and listened to me and my lash girl, it was comical. So like if they could integrate that, you know, like as part of like the reality show I think people would die because you know I leave this house with animals and then I go do that type thing and then I come back and live the animal life and I wish that people could see all of that stuff
Mhm.
you know one minute I'm in these dollar pants that I got at Walmart but then the next thing I know I'm dressed to the nines and Jerry's like how did you know how did you do that? What the heck and I'm like you know it's just funny and I think every day people should just really get to know and just
Mhm.
that way then they know that you know I don't like lock animal in cages and I don't my howler don't even get caged very often. She's running around here now. She's free. She don't get locked up. You know, I wish people knew really what I believe in and what my where my heart is and stuff and that I don't just collect all these animals. I don't have a lot of animals. I don't. I have a small collection that we did for the safari. But
Mhm.
prior to that, I didn't even have those, you know? And so I'm just like if people
And they're
could
all well taken care of too.
right, but people need to know, you know, and just because you love animals doesn't make you this terrible, terrible person. And I don't know. I'm on a mission too to deal with
Um,
Eric.
oh, okay. I'm gonna turn the filming off.
Okay.
Oh, let's say bye so we
Oh,
can.
I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and we are always excited to talk about any topics. So if anybody wants to email us some stuff or shoot us, I guess, a private message, I don't know how they can get a hold of us. I'll let Amber tell you that part. But
Yeah.
we definitely are open and ready to like take topics. And, we want everybody to be good to each other and realize that, it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, neutral, whatever. You know what? We all live in the same country and we all need to support each other and help each other and try to build each other up instead of taking each other down, because it's so much easier life to live than to have to worry about all the rest of that stuff.
Yes, and if you would like to join us to discuss any animal topics, also get a hold of us or comment because
Definitely.
we would
Definitely.
love to do that.
Yep. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.